Welcome to Fantastical Tales. This is a place to enjoy the glory of story. Folk tales, fairy lore, gothic horror, and the wonderfully weird. Thank you for joining me. It is now fall, or autumn if you prefer, and it's been quite a while since I've published a story. I did record a few things over the summer, but I wasn't able to get them edited into what I consider to be a state worthy of sharing. So those things are now moved to the back burner. But today I bring you a fall ghost story from a book called True Ghost Stories by Hereward Carrington, published in 1915. And I've in part rewritten and reworked it. So enjoy. The following incident occurred to me some years ago, and all the details can be substantiated. The date was August 26th, 1867, at midnight. I was then residing in an out-of-the-way neighborhood, and my occupation made it necessary to return there daily for a few hours. My living there was largely concerned with maintaining status, and I had for some time been engaged to a young and wealthy country heiress in the north, it being understood that on our marriage I should take her name and run for public office in that district. For her sake, I had to break off a love affair, not of the most reputable order, with a girl. I will call her Louise. She was young, beautiful, and devoted to me. On the night of the 26th of August, we took our last walk together, and a few minutes before midnight paused on a wooden bridge running across a kind of canal, locally termed a drain. We paused on the bridge, listening to the swirling of the current against the wooden piles and waiting for the stroke of midnight to part forever. In the few minutes' interval, she repeated in a soft voice Longfellow's poem, Bridge, the words of which, "I stood on the bridge at midnight," seemed terribly appropriate. Even now, after nearly 25 years, I cannot hear that piece recited without feeling a deadly chill, and the whole scene of two souls in agony rising again before me. Well, midnight struck, and just before we parted, Louise said, "Grant me one favor, the only one I shall ever ask you on this earth. Promise to meet me here again 12 months from tonight at this same hour." I demurred at first, thinking it would be bad for both of us, and only reopen partially healed wounds. At last, however, I consented, saying, "Well, I will come if I am alive." But she said, "No, say alive or dead." So I replied, "Very well then, we will meet, dead or alive." The next year I was on the spot a few minutes before the time, and punctual to the stroke of midnight. Louise arrived. By this time I had begun to regret the arrangement, but it was of too solemn a nature to put aside. I therefore kept the appointment, but said that I did not care to renew the compact. Louise, however, persuaded me to renew it for 1 more year, and I consented, though much against my will, and we again left each other, repeating the same formula, dead or alive. The next year passed rapidly until the first week in July, when I was injured in a sporting accident, having been shot dangerously in the thigh. The affair was in all the papers at the time. The 26th of August came. I was then unable to walk without crutches, and that for only a short distance, so had to be wheeled about in a bath chair. The distance to the trysting place being rather long, and the time and circumstances being very peculiar, I did not avail myself of the services of my usual attendant, but specially retained an old servant of the family, who frequently did confidential commissions for me, and who knew Miss Louise well. We set forth quietly and arrived at the bridge about a few minutes to midnight. I remember that it was a brilliant starlit night, but I do not think that there was any moon at that hour. Old Bob, as he was always affectionately called, wheeled me to the bridge, helped me out of the bath chair, and gave me my crutch. I walked onto the bridge and leaned my back against the white-painted rail top. Then I lit my briar pipe and had a comfortable smoke. I was very much annoyed that I had allowed myself to be persuaded to come a second time, and determined to tell Louise positively that this should be our last meeting. Besides, now, I did not consider it at all fair to Miss K, with whom I was again negotiating. So if anything, it was a rather sulky frame of mind that I was in as I awaited Louise. Just as the quarter of an hour began to chime, I distinctly heard the clink, clink of the little brass heels which she always wore, sounding on the long, flagged causeway which led up to the bridge. As she got nearer, I could see her pass lamp after lamp in rapid succession, while the strokes of the large clock resounded through the stilly night. At last the patter of the tiny feet sounded on the woodwork of the bridge, and I saw her distinctly pass under the lamp at my side. When she got close to me, I saw that she had neither hat nor cape on, and concluded that she had taken a cab at the further end of the flagged causeway, and, it being a very warm night, had left her wraps in the cab, and for the purposes of effect had come the short distance in evening dress. Clink, clink went the brass heels, and she seemed about passing me when I suddenly, urged by an impulse of affection, stretched out my arms to receive her. She passed through them, intangible, impalpable, and she looked at me distinctly, and I saw her lips move and the words form, "Dead or alive." I even heard the words, but not with my outward ears, with something else, some other sense. What? I know not. I felt startled, surprised, but not afraid, until a moment afterwards. I could feel, though I could not hear, the heavy, clumsy thud of feet following after her, and my blood seemed turned to ice. Recovering myself with an effort, I shouted out to old Bob, who was safely ensconced with a bath chair in a nook out of sight round the corner. "Bob, who passed you just now?" In an instant the old man was by my side. "Not a one has passed me, sir." "Nonsense, Bob," I replied. "I told you I was coming to meet Miss Louise, and she just passed me on the bridge, and must have passed you, because there's nowhere else she could go. You don't mean to tell me you didn't see her?" The old man replied solemnly, "Master Rob, there's something uncanny about it. I heard her come on the bridge and off it, and I know those clickety heels anywhere. I'm thinking we'd better get going." And go we did, and it was in the small hours of the morning, beginning to get light, before we were safely home and in bed, The next day, I made inquiries from Louise's family about her and ascertained that she had died 3 months previously, being apparently delirious for a few hours before her death, and our parting compact evidently weighing on her mind as she kept repeating, "Dead or alive, shall I be there?" to the utter bewilderment of her friends, who could not divine her meaning, being, of course, entirely unaware of our agreement.